Good morning. So it is so good to be with everyone virtually. And by the time you see this, it will be Sunday, July 25th, which is also part of Mary Magdalene's Sacred Feast Day. So at Fairfax Community Church in Fairfax, California, we are celebrating Mary Magdalene with a 3-part series. And we are so very fortunate to have with us Oshun du Bellay, who was born in the United States, but has lived in the south of France for decades now. And she has a very impressive history as a spiritual leader and teacher. So in order to do her justice, I'm actually going to read her biography because it is so very interesting. And I will also list a way for you to follow up more with her if you would like it. So let me introduce us to Oshun through her biography. Oshun du Bellay is first and foremost at the service of humanity through the practice and facilitation of prayer. Oshun has dedicated her life to integrating spiritual practices into daily life, drawing on over 3 decades of initiation as a medicine woman, ceremonial priestess, facilitator, and trainer in rituals and ceremonies. Today, she serves an international community as a teacher, speaker, mentor, and initiator, primarily through the spiritual sciences, the initiatory path of the Black Madonna, a feminine approach to non-duality, and shamanism. Ordained as a priestess in 2003 by our beloved mentor, the venerable hierophant, Bishop Rosamonde Miller, at the Gnostic Shrine of the Holy Order of Mary Magdala, an unbroken spiritual lineage of Myriam of Magdala, and the Hieros Gammos, living mysteries dating back hundreds of centuries in southern France. Since her ordination, Oshun has celebrated the Nuptial Chamber Mass, or the bridal chamber. In 2019, the beloved Rosamonde extended to Oshun the consecration of a shrine chapel in France. At the chapel of Myriam of Magdala, the bridal chamber mass is regularly celebrated and is open to the public. Oshun offers individual sessions, classes, ceremonies, and retreats online and in person throughout the year. She is the founder of the Breath of Magdala, an annual 5-day residential retreat in the south of France, the Art of Healing Magic Acceleration Mystery School, a comprehensive training course that directly taps into the latent dimensions of consciousness and enables the release of our higher state of awareness. This is both through virtual classes and live events. She is also a spiritual director and priestess of the Gnostic Shrine in the south of France, which is also known as the Sanctuary of the Holy Shekinah. If you would like to follow up with Oshun, her website is www.oshundubellay.com. That's spelled OSHUNDUBELLAY. Or you can email her at oshun@oshundubellay.com. Oshun embodies her intention to love, to emanate joy, and to see beautiful magic in all relationships. She brings with her a lifetime of active practice, experiential knowledge, and the collective wisdom of the elders, mystics, and teachers who have guided her throughout her life. And I just know personally that this is so because I have had the blessing of being a friend and colleague with Oshun for many years through the Gnostic Sanctuary in Palo Alto through Rosamonde Miller. So we just want to welcome you, Oshun. It is just such a delight to have you with us and such a treat. And by the time this actually airs, you're going to actually be in that 5-day time with your own sanctuary in the south of France. So it's just really exciting to be with you as we're kind of particularly building the Mary Magdalene energies in this time. So thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you, Kimberly. I'm really happy to be here with you too. And I have enjoyed singing, dancing, and praying and praising with you for a number of years at the sanctuary. So
Yay.
I'm
Amen.
very honored of this opportunity to be in your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're honored to have you. So we just have a few questions. And I just wanted to start by asking, we've been in a series for a while of understanding who Mary Magdalene is. And we've looked at some of the Nag Hammadi texts. And so like the Priestess Sophia, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, we absolutely know that she was an initiated spiritual leader and teacher in her own right, that she probably perhaps originated from Egypt, that she wasn't necessarily what the Christian tradition has necessarily described her to be, of course, that there is a fuller picture of her. So we've been studying that for a while. And what I would like to know personally then is, how does she make a difference in your own life? How does this aspect of the sacred feminine that is embodied in Mary Magdalene make a difference in your own spiritual life?
Well, that's a really good and interesting question. As you mentioned, by the time this airs, we will have done our 5-day retreat. And one of the things that happens often, and I remember the very first retreat, which was this is the 9th year in France for this retreat. And the first year I made a note to everyone that they realized that we'd been together for 3 days and we had not talked about Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
And so that comes for me. Well, first of all, I grew up in a very gospel upbringing. We read the Bible right and forth, back and forth, right and left for years. And it has a very important aspect in my life. And in the New Testament, the presence, the strongest related for me was Mary Magdalene, John, and of course, Yeshua. And but in Mary Magdalene, I not really thought very much about it until after I had been engaged in the work of the Holy Sophia, the Holy Shekinah. And somehow, little by little, Mary Magdalene was always there. When I moved to the south of France, anywhere I journeyed, for the Black Madonna, for example, she was there. Or if I was interested in Mary Magdalene, a site, the Black Madonna was there. And so I don't know if I can really speak of her as something external to my experience, other than the experience of longing for this union of the divine. She always comes up in that energy of longing for this union. And I think that today that's the biggest question. And that's what everything that our mystery school is about, the work that we do, the Souffle de Magdala. And I believe it's the key to everything. This desire is already there. And I even look at it as the fulfillment of the desire is already there, especially now we're coming closer and closer to a time when we can embody it. And, and then I would say it's that her love is this great and inexhaustible fountain. And it's steadfast. It's a way of a warrior of the heart, I like this expression because that's someone who is delving into the knowledge of themselves. So that deeply touches me personally. And I find that it touches pretty much everyone I speak to. Today, we're delving into the depths of knowing who we are without fear of knowing it and releasing things. So, I perceive it as entering into the depths of your own self. She is a fountain of that wisdom body of delving into your own self and emerging a whole initiate, even without the terms of that. You may never have those terms, but you're emerging as something fully conscious.
Beautiful. That's beautifully said. So having her help us with our own inner unification and deepening of our own consciousness and this fount of love, that's also how I experience her deeply in prayer and meditation, just this desire to emanate love and presence. And I often experience her as a companion on the journey, that she wants to actually help the process of higher consciousness and initiation, like a companion on the journey. And as you said, our own inner bridal chamber that happens all the time, our own inner
Yes.
integration of yin and yang within ourselves, as well as the other sacred marriage of ourselves with divine consciousness, which of course is around us all the time. But beautifully said. Thank you so much, Oshun.
Yeah.
And I know that the Black Madonna is very important to you as a spiritual practice. She wants to make herself known by celebrating. The Black Madonna wants to celebrate her presence. So it's become a very important part of my own spiritual life as well. And I know that within your leading and teaching, you consciously help people awaken to the energies of the Black Madonna. And you also help to commission this painting that our own member, Manoush Graglia, has created of the Black Madonna. If others who are watching this have not seen it, it's outstanding. You can also Google Manoush Graglia and order copies of that print, because I also think it's helpful to have images of her. And of course, there in Europe, we have lots of Black Madonnas all over, shrines to her in various churches and cathedrals, which is such a fascinating history. In terms of spiritually, what do you see as the link between the Black Madonna and Mary Magdalene? And that may begin with your just own understanding of the Black Madonna and the understanding of her as a spiritual practice, and how that also connects to Mary Magdalene.
Well, really my exploration has been to go to the depth of the mysteries of the heart of the Christian mysteries for a long time. And I didn't recognize it as that, but it was. And one thing I noticed a very long time before I really embraced it's kind of a trinity, Isis, Black Madonna, and Magdalene. Because when I first really started looking at the Black Madonna, all I could see was the iconic images of Isis and Horus. And the nature of the whole myth there, I found it fully alive in the Christian mysteries of the Madonna and the birth of the light that we call Jesus. And I saw the full myth there, first of all. And, I wrote about, I wrote somewhere about that and about the Holy Sophia once from my sister once. But I felt there was always this energy was present about these mysteries, yet for the most part, they remain hidden or veiled for so many thousands of years, really. And, it began, like I said, with a text that I wrote out of nowhere for my sister once, for a university paper, and I'm the one who wrote it, or rather gave her most of the information for it, on the Divine Sophia. And I did not know what came over me to write such an extensive paper on Sophia, but it changed so many things in the way that, that I was, in the way I was reacquainted with Magdalene herself, and connected the dots with Isis, and then of course with the Virgin Mary, or rather really the Black Madonna herself. And I began to wonder if in fact the return of the Messiah was not in fact a reawakening of the feminine principle, a reawakening of this energy, because this aspect of the Messiah consciousness, the Messianic consciousness, which is the feminine body, was kind of hidden. And I began to explore that deep within myself, and especially living here in the south of France, you can't get it any better if your exploration is through the Black Madonna. I have visited hundreds here, and there are not so many anywhere else in the entire world as there are here in France. A large part of them in the central of France and in the south of France.
You mean shrines to the Black Madonna?
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
And they all will take you to the depths of yourself, the depth of your soul, as a connection with yourself as the earth herself. It takes you into these deep connections where all of these energetic locations that you realize that they are established already within your makeup, within your constitution. And so going to these wonderful places, they will really inform you if you are willing. And I say that because I used to tell people that once the Black Madonna bites you, there's no going back. And it can be, it can be life-changing, but this messianic consciousness that is in the moment now has a lot to do with this energy. When I first moved to France in 1997, I recognized that the churches were empty. They're empty. People are not going to mass, and I'm not Catholic, but I recognized that, and something said to me, well, if the next pope's not an African or at least or a woman, something really radical, then it may be the end. But because something was saying, this energy has to come alive, and one can't have Magdala without being in the breath of the Immaculate Madonna. They go one and the same. And I think it's because her wisdom body was so completely it was available to her clinging to the nature of this love, this God presence, this messianic energy was so alive in, through, and as her, that she was an emanation of what we refer to as the Holy Divine Feminine. Because, and so we can want it, but then we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to surrender all in order that everything that is divine lives through us and has its being as what we are? And that really requires letting go of a whole lot of ideas about our conditioning and what we think is right, what we think is wrong. And Magdalene is just the weaver of life, and she opens the door for us, and it's up to us to decide if we're ready to embrace that level of being empty enough to be able to allow ourselves to be filled with this divine presence through our body. And so that's really what she is to me. And that's why, to me, she is wherever you see the Black Madonna, there she is. My Native American teacher once said to me, oh, Black Madonnas, yes, I saw one of those. And they are the black hole. Just like when you go into a sweat lodge where you put the stones, pour water over them and purify yourself, that's a black hole. And this nature of the black hole is it helps you to strip away all the illusions of yourself so that you can be emptied out well enough to be filled with pure spirit. So it's a little like going into the abyss of Da'at.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so kind of like the dissolving of anything that is not of our highest good or our highest self. We sort of, it sort of all dissolves and merges into the one so that we can kind of elevate our own consciousness. Is that part of how you?
Yes, it evolves into the one, but also what is really major about this whole piece is that I see the Madonna, the Black Madonna iconic figures, the oldest ones that we have. And Isis means throne. And one who sits on her, she is the throne of wisdom. And when you see the earliest Black Madonnas, there's an elder person, not a baby or anything, an elder being sitting on the center of her lap. He's sitting on the throne of wisdom, and he has received this wisdom and this knowledge. And this is really, and then he becomes the light of many blessings. And her gaze, her eyes are open in a constant gaze where she sees everything. And so no matter what is coming in any direction, your resonance of the light and the power of presence is so determined, so clear, that there is nothing that penetrates that energy. So you are embraced by this and you become this. And it gives the way to a being like Mary Magdalene to be living that way in spite of all the heavy persecutions that she was receiving, and even after death
Mm,
continues.
mm,
Look at us today, her mysteries are unfolding.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's unfolding through us all today,
Mm-hmm,
men and women.
mm-hmm. So she is also an access point, a facilitator that
Yes,
helps us. Yeah.
yes. I
Beautiful.
like how you said she's like a companion that helps me.
Right.
Well, because she's the one I'm certain who guided me to meet the bishop of our sanctuary. Blessed is she forever and eternally.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had no knowledge about what it was saying to me to lead me to go to the sanctuary. And this is where I met
Rosamonde.
Rosamonde, and I met the body of this wisdom that is supernal and eternal.
Uh-huh.
And it lets you know that, oh yes, everything was weaved into it after that. Every path, everything is weaved into this strong body.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. And what is unique about France? We know that the tradition is that she fled to the south of France after Jesus's death and crucifixion and resurrection. I've been to the south of France and I'm very kinesthetically sensitive, so I can feel the energy there that is amazing. And I've heard some people say it's because of this unique sort of feminine energy or portal within the land that helps facilitate this kind of higher consciousness. But since you've been there for so long and have chosen to stay there and come back and forth to the United States so that you can do your work there, can you speak a little bit more about what it is, maybe that your understanding of why she chose France or what's unique about France, and then also to talk a little bit about what you all do, with your mystery school and this sanctuary you have that's an actual cave, right?
yeah, actual cave. One of the meanings of there's this term Mara, which Rosamonde shared with me once, that these are the names of, like, a title for priestesses, and looking in the Song of Songs and in the Hebraic tradition by the Hebrew, one of the understandings of this word Mara is cave dweller, she who sees um, through the cave or outside the horizon by the way of the cave.
Mm-hmm.
And I first saw that, I was like, oh my goodness.
Because there's a
We
link
have
between that and the womb, right? Obviously, between the cave
Yes.
and the womb too, right?
Oh, definitely. This is the womb of everything is being weaved in this way. But one of the things about here in France, and you're right, I have lived here since 1997, and I've traveled around Europe, and there is nothing like the feeling on the land here for me personally. And I landed in, Languedoc region of France, and it is a wealth, an inexhaustible wealth of energy and information about Magdala, about the wisdom keepers, about the Kabbalistic teachers who lived, grew up, and dedicated their lives, about so many things, about those who held wisdom, the heretics, really. And if someone wants to make a pilgrimage here, there's plenty to behold as an experience. There's particularly this small town in called Les Saintes Maries de la Mer, which is heralded as the place where Magdalene first arrived in Gaul, when she was escaping persecution. And in this small town, at one time it maintained the Temple of Ra as an Egyptian temple, dating back to the time of the Phoenicians. And that along the Mediterranean, there were many different temples, what we call the Egyptian spiritual temples. They mirrored along the Mediterranean, different parts of the southern France, what was there in Egypt. So I think that's one of the dynamics, because it was an energy that was very much alive. Anyway, this small town, so many people who live there, they know about these old Egyptian mysteries that were there. The Temple of Isis is in a city called Arl, not too far away, at that particular time. And nobody really knows why Magdala arrived there. And to me, she knew where she was going.
Mm.
She fled Egypt, and many of the initiations perhaps came out of there. Then she knew where she was going. It was no accident to fall upon the boat and just arrive there. And so there's a Black Madonna there also, or rather, this emanation of Sarah, and it was in the crypt, and hundreds of thousands of people a year go there.
Mm.
And nobody really has a good, strong identification as to who Sarah represents. To me, it is the mystery of Magdala herself is what Sarah is representing. Because they try to make her a slave, but I don't buy that,
Yeah.
because of her Blackness. They say that she was Mary Magdalene's slave. I just don't, there's no reason for her other than this is the body of the icon for Mary Magdalene.
Right. And the other people, for people who might not know, Sarah is the other person that is believed to have been in the boat with Mary Magdalene.
Yes.
And gotten off there at that location that you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. And she has her own sense of mystery. Yeah. Surrounding her. Can you tell us a little bit more about the cave, even that you're preparing right now, because you're heading into your own 5-day retreat. And I know you had mentioned to me earlier, you're literally painting Hebrew words on the walls, and just describe for us what that is like. You must be creating some incredible resonant sound chamber. I haven't been there, but I really want to go, because I can't even imagine how it must facilitate amplify the spiritual energies there.
Well, yes, it is wonderful. My approach to many of the teachings that I do is recognizing that our body is a sound chamber. And every word that we speak creates, and we are a living verb, always creating, and it creates by resonance. And when chanting in this language of Aramaic and Hebrew, this language it emanates certain forces within ourselves. And as we begin to adapt to the practice of it, our life just starts changing at a very rapid level. And so one of the things that I do is I start off with these mantras. They may be taken from text from the Bible, like the Psalms, or just any wonderful phrase or a healing prayer. One I teach a lot here is called the Anabachoa, which is a 42-letter name of God. And these are very miraculous and powerful healing mantras. And so they have been so effective in life-changing situations for the body of our Sangha. And as I'm working on our chapel now, one of the things that we're doing is we're going to be writing in the old traditional way of many churches or mosque even, where you have the sacred writing on the walls, and we're doing it all in Hebrew. Certain mantras that we've used quite a lot, like the 42-letter name, like the Psalm 16:8, which is I place God before me always. All these various different prayers. And already it's true, when people come, they feel it immediately. The incredible energy that's in this chapel. So we have the chapel itself, and then a little deeper into the cave is a little Black Madonna that's sitting there. She's like a menhir, just holding space.
Beautiful.
And we'll be having the Souffle de Magdala, Breath of Magdala, starting on the 20th this month, ending on the 25th.
Yay, that's so great. So we'll be energetically linked in spirit together, and we wish you really well on those sacred 5 days. And I'm noticing this just whets my appetite for wanting to be in spiritual practice with you directly. So I'm hoping that this also plants a seed for our community, that we can literally have you out in person next time you're in California, because I know just by knowing you, that you are so deeply experiential. I mean, you have so much intellectual knowledge, and I really respect you as a scholar who has done so much study. And one of the things I love about you is that you're able then to translate that into practice, that ultimately it's about how does it drop into the body and the soul and the spirit, that we can engage with those things we've been studying directly, so they can shift and make a difference in our lives, so that we can go out and make a difference in the world. And that's, for those who don't know you, I just want to raise that up as a witness, that that is how you live your life, as someone who's dedicated to spirit and exudes such love and joy. Your being is radiant, like a 1,000-watt light bulb, 100,000-watt light bulb. So it's been such a treat just to be with you, even just for this little time. And I'm hoping that this plants a seed that we can also bring you to our community, that we would open up to the wider community to have you do a very experiential retreat with us, where we could dive into these mysteries more deeply. Yeah.
Thank you. I would love that. I would love it and cherish the moment we begin.
Yay. Okay. So for other folks, yay. So for other folks who might be watching this again, your website is www.oshundubellay.com, OSHUNDUB, sorry,
Bellay.
BELLAY. And then your email is oshundubellay.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, dear Kimberly.
Why? So much love. It's just such a treat and an honor and a blessing. And again, I'm just so excited to hear about how your 5 days go when you're done with your retreat.
Thank you. Thank you to your beloved community.
Yay. And
glorious Magdalene feast day.
Yay. We will see each other again soon. So.
Yeah.